This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey there, Thunder Buddies and Travellers down Thunder Road. It's us, Days of Thunder, the WCW Thunder rewatch podcast that you didn't ask for, but we did anyway, coming to you as part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. I am your party host, your custom-made host, Dave Ryan, and I am joined, as always, by my faithful co-host, Sagar Lee Malone. Lee, how are you, my friend?
I'm not too bad, pal. It's good to be back on a regular episode of Thunder this week.
Yeah, I feel like things have been hectic in the pod world, but things have been hectic in the real world as well. So there's it feels like returning to your constant or grounding yourself or something to be back doing a bog standard episode.
It's wrapped in that safety blanket of a Thunder taping.
Yeah.
Where you know the wrestling isn't going to blow you away.
Yeah.
But it's just that nice little...
Yeah,
it's like a welcome home.
It's the basic ham sandwich, is what it is. Just reliable, getting the job done. I actually had I'm not using it today, but I'm staring at it right here. I tweeted about this. I had
a ham sandwich.
No, although now I'm thinking very much about a ham sandwich. I had one of these moments a couple of weeks ago where I realized how old I've gotten, Lee, and it's. You know when you're in your youth and you go out for a few cheeky jars of a weekend and you imbibe, and I don't know if this is the same phenomenon for our American friends or whatever, but it used to be the case that you'd either, make a drunken purchase of usually some very greasy food, or back kind of, I suppose when we would have both been college age was the prime era of our supermarkets being 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes I'd ramble in and buy absolutely useless shit. And I had one of those nights where I went out, I had a few pints. Now, not that many, to be honest, but I think it was I made the rookie error of not having real proper food for soakage. I think I had a bowl of soup that whole day, and that was it.
Not good.
Yeah, and then I went out on the Guinness. So, my own fault. But I woke up the following day, and I was kind of, suffering. And about halfway through the day, I get a ping of an email from Amazon saying, your order is dispatched. And I was like, oh, mother of Jesus, what am I after ordering now? And instead of all these kind of useless bells and whistles, shiny things that I would have bought in my youth, I ended up buying a succession of annoyingly boring and practical things on a whim. So I bought the first one was a waterproof kind of utility backpack. That can protect my laptop because, as people that follow our Twitter might know, I often edit these shows while I'm, either on a train to work or on my lunch break in work or, off at some sort of
the elements
meeting.
On some kind of fucking camping trip or...
Yeah, at a meeting or on a training day or, when I'm bringing a group somewhere or something like that, whenever I have some spare time. So this is one of those that'll keep the laptop nice and safe, has its own little secret pouch, has one of those... It's one of those bags that has the USB charging port on the side of it. Yeah. So, it's proper 21st century shit. So that was one thing. Then I bought like a new work lunchbox, apparently. One of those kind of little cooler bags that folds down when you've eaten your lunch and it's empty. Which again, like, look, I can't argue with any of these things being very handy for me, but it's just like me being so disappointed in myself that this is where I've gotten to.
So can we now say that Drunk Dave is a lot more practical and realistic than Sober Dave?
Yeah, and it used to be like very much the opposite. My friend Mick used to call the the altered state version of me Dave 2.0, because it was like an upgrade in terms of like volume, confidence, charisma, and definitely a downgrade in terms of inhibitions and stuff like that. But the other two things I got right are the real kind of like, how is a drunk person thinking this specifically about needs they have around the house. So I got one of those foldable metal laptop stands to put my laptop kind of at an angle when I'm watching stuff or when I'm doing podcasts. Like not today, because I tend to put it on my little tray here on my chair. But like sometimes when I'm doing, there are nights where I'll do like Link to the Cast and then go straight into meeting you, or we'll do 2 back to back or something. So I wanted one where I could elevate it, that I could stand if I wanted to. So I got that. And then the final, and I think most kind of ostentatious one, even though it was probably the cheapest of the lot of them, was this hairbrush and comb set, which, look, needed. Because, you know, my lockdown project still ongoing is I've grown out my hair and now it's gone like well past my shoulders when it's down. But it's like, it's a genuine boar hairbrush. It's like, with like proper...
Now I'm imagining Drunk Dave coming home and saying to Emma, you know what, you're not stopping me from getting this anymore. This is on my mind.
This never would have stopped me in the first place. And, like, look, I was laughing at myself and I was mortified. I was like, who gets a genuine boar hairbrush with, like, proper, I will say, hand-carved wooden handle?
Oh, of course. Like, that's what I was saying.
I was going to bring it in here to show you on the screen on Zoom, just do a bit of show and tell for you. I also got this. I'm literally just opening it here, and I can do show and tell for this bit. I got a year's subscription to Tribune, the Socialist Workers magazine, which is, look, it's a beautiful magazine, and I had a subscription to it before. Shout out Tribune. But yeah, I was going to say about the hairbrush as well. I was laughing at myself, and I was like, like, who needs that far? But I will say, Lee, it's the nicest hairbrush I've ever had in my life. Now, it actually, now that I think about it, it is the first hairbrush I've had in my life as well.
I was just going to say, I don't think I've ever
I was very much a comb man. But now it's kind of like the hair has gotten so long, and when the hair gets tangled, you need something with a bit more welly than just a standard plasticky comb.
Yeah, but see, you have to remember, the last time I had hair, it was all about just putting your hands through your hair and this is the last time you had hair was during the Clinton administration. Not far off, unfortunately.
Yeah, sympathies.
There was a Bush in office, and you'll be surprised by which one.
Click here. The results will surprise you.
That's what we have to get into.
What?
We got to get into, like, BuzzFeed lists. Yeah.
Clickbait, yeah. Well, actually, here's a nice segue in terms of clickbait, because this is something that I know the listeners go absolutely ham for. I've got some snack talk.
Go for it.
Yeah, I
was waiting for a Sting to play there, because we do that much snack talk now that I think we need to have a...
So I know we do need it does need to be its own proper buffered segment. But so I had a bit of a weekend, because I kind of, and this is something else that I tweeted out at the Day to Dave, that I finished, like, the hardest part of my year is the middle of the summer, because we do summer programs, and I think I was even talking about it behind the paywall on Patreon last week, that I was kind of just coming towards the end of things. So I finished on Friday that whole busy period. And I celebrated by going to my old boss in work, who's become a good mate of mine. I went to stay in his house in Wicklow, out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, for a barbecue. And then the following day, myself and Emma went into town and we got some cool shit. So, barbecue was immense. Not like there was it a smoky maple barbecue burger I had was one of the things.
Very nice.
Some fresh grilled halloumi, some lettuce and tomato right out of one of Steve's friends works in a garden centre, and she like has a huge kind of garden set up at home. She was showing me on her phone. So she had grown her own tomatoes and lettuce, and that shit was delicious. But otherwise pretty standard barbecue fare. Maybe a controversial food talk that would get me cancelled is, or a snack talk that would get me cancelled is that one of the big things they had that the rest of them were all having is potato salad, and I'm not a potato salad guy whatsoever.
I do not understand potato salad.
Yeah. You see, I'm not like, because I'm not a coleslaw guy either. Like, I think anything with like a mayonnaise type ingredient or texture to it, I'm not having.
I kind of dip in and out of coleslaw. Like, I can go a year or so without having it, and then I'll be like, Joe, it'd be nice with a little bit of coleslaw.
For me, things with mayonnaise, so like I very seldom would have mayonnaise, and it would have to be quite sparing. Occasionally, with like I'm getting a chicken and stuffing roll or sandwich, I'll do a little bit of mayonnaise. Butter would always be a preference, but I can do a little bit of mayonnaise.
I prefer butter myself as well.
Yeah, I've never been a mayonnaise guy. But that's besides the point. So that was really nice, and they had to accompany the burgers and stuff like that. I was able to add some don't know where he picked it up in Ireland, but some Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce instead of just like your standard ketchup to put on stuff. So that was some good shit. I then went to Dublin the following day. I posted some photos of what I got on Twitter, I think. So I got Twix caramel popcorn.
And how was it?
It was sensational. Now, I had been told, I did not take down the name of who said it to me.
I think it was Webcon that mentioned.
Was it Webcon that said the Oreo one?
Oreo, yeah.
Yeah. So the Oreo one is supposed to be great, and they did have the Oreo one. So next time I'm back there.
So what you're saying is you made the wrong decision.
Yeah, do you know where it is, Lee? Because you know Dublin. It's the kind of like hipstery looking grocers that's near Grand Canal Dock Station.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
All their meat in there comes from FX Buckley, yes, which is like one of the premier. Butchers. Yeah, yes. It's one of the fancy butchers in Dublin. So I got that. I very nearly, if it wasn't for the fact that we were going to be in town all day and I didn't want to leave meat in a hot car, they did have like Wagyu beef chuck burgers and different things like that, and I was like, But so I got that. I got a slice of lemon drizzle cake from their bakery, which was fantastic.
See, I'm not a lemon drizzle guy.
Oh, I love lemon drizzle. And I got yes, a bottle of a favourite place of mine. I can't remember if you've ever been there or not. Chimac in Dublin.
I have not been yet, no.
Shout out to our good friend Emma G, yes. Chimac brand ambassador. Chimac is a Korean barbecue place in Dublin, which is one of my favourite spots, and maybe one of our reunions we should go there.
We absolutely should.
It's unbelievable, but they've started bottling and selling their KBBQ sauce, which is, oh my god, it's so good. So I am going to have quite the chickeny cookout soon with that. And then that day as well, and this is kind of the main event of what I was driving at, we went for tapas, which is like the perfect snack talk genre of food. Mm-hmm. You have little bits here or there. So I had like, Emma ordered some stuff, I ordered some stuff. It worked out very well for me because she's vegetarian and I'm not, so I was able to have all of mine and some of hers. Just some tastes, nothing big. On her side, which is kind of like my stuff is the main event in my view. We obviously had the patatas bravas, which I think is like your kind of your standard if you're there. Yeah. We also had kind of like a nice crisp bread that comes with like fresh cloves of garlic that you're supposed to kind of rub into it rather than crush on it. And I was like, what's rubbing a clove of garlic off a piece of bread going to do to change the flavour? Lee, my life has changed. It was incredible. It kicked it up. Something fierce.
So you're saying you had this bread and you made it into this almost garlic bread?
Well, yeah, but not, because you know what I mean? Like, normally when I'm making garlic bread, I'm like dicing or mincing the garlic onto it, or, you know, mixing it with butter and putting it on. Like, I'm physically putting the garlic on the bread, not essentially massaging it with the garlic. And I was like, how is any of this garlic even coming off on it? But it does, because I guess garlic is so fucking strong. So the patatas bravas were great as well. I tried, Emma got like a spinach cannelloni, which was really nice. She also got like it was a potato and cheese Spanish omelette, which looked like it was fucking massive wedge of a yolk, but that was really nice. And then for me, I got some the first thing I got out were croquettes, so like small croquettes, nice fried breadcrumb on the outside, bechamel sauce and cheese and ham, Iberian ham in the middle.
Wow, lovely.
Oh, unbelievable. And then the main event of what I had was so there was like some, what were they? It was like a lemon and paprika chicken skewer as well. Really good. And then the main event was braised beef cheek in gravy on a bed of mash. Oof. And it was, Lee, my friend, it was top drawer.
It's a weekend.
I know. Well, this is it. It was like, hey, so I get paid this week. And it's like, because I've been in work so much, I haven't really spent that much because I haven't been out doing stuff. So I have like a bit left, and I need to chill out after like 6 stressful weeks. So let's go do some gastronomic and retail therapy. Because that's the other thing. I went on a bit of a nerd spree. Went to 2 of my favorite places: Tower Records on Dawson Street in Dublin, and then Sub City Comics just off Jervis Street. And I picked myself up quite a haul. I got the Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars comic. I got the Doomsday Clock, which is like the one-off story of integrating Watchmen characters into the DC universe. That like I'm kind of fascinated to read, good or bad. And then they have like DC have like they used to have Vertigo as their grown-up imprint, but now there's like a DC Black Label, they call it, and it's a standalone Rorschach series. So I decided I'd get that to have a read of it. And then I picked up 2 of my favourite films in Tower Records on Blu-ray. Complete opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of actual quality. But I don't think a man of our generation alive didn't, during college time or age, go without watching The Boondock Saints.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely classic, schlocky, bad movie, but I haven't actually like watched it since I was 20 or 21. Yeah. So I'm really interested. The one thing I do remember that even at the time, even though I was like, this is awesome because it's so schlocky, was how horrendous the Irish accents were in it. But it'll be interesting going back to, because this is the first thing I'd ever seen Norman Reedus in, who obviously since Walking Dead now is like this massive famous actor.
It's always interesting when you go back on movies like that and you're like, oh my god, they actually went on to do something.
Yeah. And then I got, because I've never physically owned it, but one of my absolute favourite movies on Blu-ray, and that is Mulholland Drive.
Very good movie.
People who follow me on Twitter will have seen that I went through kind of like a summer of David Lynch last year, towards the end of lockdown, where I watched like all 3 seasons of Twin Peaks back to back and then watched his entire filmography pretty much. I don't think I watched Wild at Heart, but I think I watched pretty much the rest of them. And yeah, Mulholland Drive was probably my entry to him, and it's probably still my favourite. Like sometimes I think maybe I like Blue Velvet more, but you know, gun to my head, if I've got to put a Lynch movie in my top 10 of all time, I'm usually going Mulholland Drive. So yeah, that's my snack talk and nerd talk for the week, my friend.
You had quite the weekend. Whereas I just had, work.
Yeah. I felt bad for you, my friend, because we were talking at one point, and you were just like, "Yeah, I'm up at like, whatever stupid o'clock or."
Yeah, it's like
it
fucking.
happens.
I had a game on Saturday evening, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're going for points." I was like,
Yeah.
"Nope, I'm in work."
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Well, it ebbs and flows, because like I was starting those summer programs and trying to manage the start of our Patreon, and you were fucking swanning off down the Iberian Peninsula. So
yeah,
next week when I'm on my hollybops in Prague, and you're left holding the bag, it'll be karmic retribution, my friend.
You say left holding the bag. I mean, listen, you're leaving me in control of the Patreon, so.
Yeah, Lord knows what'll happen. Speaking of which, Lee, during your reign of terror on the Patreon, do you want to let folks know we had a really good show last week, and we've got we'll see what the new series next week is going to be like. Remind people who may have missed the last free episode what this month looks like on patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod.
So this month we have already released Rehash of the Champions 3 Fall Brawl, which was, of course, Sting facing Barry Windham in the main event for the US title. Upcoming then, this day next week, we will be releasing the first episode of Dave's Baby. It is Black and Golden Days, basically a history of the NXT brand, going right back to the beginning, covering our first episode. Will cover the first season, the entirety of the first season. I think we've settled on, yes. And then also Dave will have his grab bag as usual to end the month.
Yeah, boy.
Discussing all things to Sheet, any other wrestling he has seen, and whatever else crosses his mind.
Yeah.
And this coming weekend, I will have my first kind of extra audio where it'll just be myself flying solo. I've already put up a thread on the Patreon for people to throw in any questions they have, but I will basically just be covering whatever's on my mind this weekend and answering your questions.
Have you ever done solo audio before, Lee?
I have not, so I am interested to see how I get on.
Yeah. We'll see, listener, if you can get up to how long. Was my first grab bag like 43 minutes or something?
Yeah.
I think. See, that's the time to beat.
By beat, you mean be shorter or longer?
Depends on the context, I guess.
Look, I'll go as long as I go. I could start an argument in an empty room, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, if you're left with no one to stop you talking about Edge, who knows what will happen.
And don't get me started on the Edge from U2.
But yeah, no, big month. If you haven't subscribed yet, we like to think it's good value for money. For, roughly the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you can get in at the Team Beefy Da tier. And what that gets you guaranteed is at least 2 standard bonus shows. And the grab bag audio as well. All patrons, like even if you don't have the €5 a month or $5 a month, you can chip in at a lower level and you'll still get the sheet every month as I update it.
Show notes, I think.
Show notes come in from anywhere from €1 up, which we post at the end of every month. And you also get to take part in different polls that come out to choose future shows.
And we will say September is going to be our biggest month.
Yeah. Biggest month in terms of shows. So like there's still a little bit of August left. Totally understand if you guys want to hold on, wait till the new billing period starts in September and hop on. But I got to tell you, and I feel like I've said this at least twice now, if there was a month to sign up, September is the month. So far, because like not only are you getting, 3 months worth of what we've already done, so that's like 9 proper substantially long Patreon exclusive podcasts plus preview clips of the free shows before they're posted, plus any other bits and bobs that we've done, plus the sheet, blah 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 blah. But the plan we have for September is, on top of those shows, to do a couple of little extra special things.
And we'll say it will be beginning right at the start of September.
Yes. And I think maybe next weekend we'll, the end of the month, follow us at WCW Thunderpod on Twitter. And over the last couple of days of August, we'll kind of let you guys know. We usually post the Patreon schedule for the month as we have it planned. Sometimes best laid plans, etc., etc. But we will give the rough dates as to when everything is coming out right at the end of August, so you can see what you'll miss out on if you don't subscribe.
And of course, that's patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod.
Hey. While we're in sponsorship corner, I think before we start off on this episode of Thunder, let's hear a word from this show's sponsors. That's right, Days of Thunder listeners. It's that time again. If you have an appetite like the corn-fed meathead Skip Sheffield, you're going to want to listen into this because we got to talk about our friends at HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Choose from 55 plus weekly options featuring pre-portioned, high-quality ingredients picked at peak ripeness. HelloFresh delivers fresh, quality produce from the farm to your door in less than a week, so you can savor summer flavors right from home. Select meals from the Taste of Summer series that are sure to become everyone's new favorites, like the Old Bay shrimp and sausage boil and family-style grilled steak lettuce wraps. Holy hell. To avail of the offer that's being made to you, the Days of Thunder listener, all you gotta do is go to hellofresh.com/VOW16 and use the code VOW16 for up to 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. One more time, that's hellofresh.com/VOW16 and use the code VOW16 at checkout to avail of that offer. And if that doesn't sate your appetite, I just don't know what will. It's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Back to the show. This is Thunder, episode 58, the second half of a double shot in Richmond, Virginia. This show released 7th of April, 1999, the rare Wednesday edition of Thunder. As there was some, I missed what sport, but there was a sports game on Thursday.
Sports game.
Sports game. Was it baseball?
I believe it was the Braves, yes. Ted's other main love.
So baseball was on the Thursday, so they moved, which would explain the fact that this dipped to a 2.0 rating.
Oof, that's fucking...
Down from the 3s on Thursdays.
It's a big dip. I want to just mention that April 7th, 1999 would have been my brother's 18th birthday.
Hey.
I have no recollection of what we did, but...
Did you watch Thunder?
I wouldn't imagine so, unless I was watching on BSF.
Yeah. So, two things, I think, stylistic notes that I picked up at the very start of this show. So
I wonder what they could be.
So the first is that now on Thunder, our flashbacks to Nitro or previous shows are letterboxed in like this jagged metal picture frame. Mm-hmm. Don't know how I feel about that.
No, don't love it.
But the other thing I've noticed, the new WCW logo is here.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So this would be the one that I think many dying days of WCW fans would notice, would recognize, with the big swoopy C in the middle.
The squashed fly effect.
Yes. Do we know how quickly Nitro switches to that set? It's
that week, that Monday, the Monday.
Yeah, just gone.
Yeah, the Monday before this episode.
Yeah, so where the logo opens in the middle.
Well, like, remember DDP and Hulk Hogan destroyed the set.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we talked about that on Nights of Nitro. That was like the setup, the payoff. Then, on this Nitro. What did you think? So we've never really talked about the evolution of the WCW logos. What are your thoughts on this era of WCW logo? And I suppose then, as big wrestling set nerds, what did you think of the switch to the big WCW set?
So, I'm actually in the minority in that I actually don't mind the new logo.
I it's funny because, and it's probably because when I first got in, this is the logo.
Whereas when you had then seen the big purple early 90s WCW logo, you were probably like, yeah, that's very dated.
Yeah, it's a product of its time.
Yes. And see, that's what I think gets kind of lost. Like, I know at the time people hated it, but that's because wrestling fans fear change. I thought this logo was very, again, of its time. And, you know, WWF had just changed to the scratch logo not too long before this, a year maybe previous?
Yeah.
So WCW, with its big, blocky, early 90s, it did feel out of time.
And by being the ones that went a year after WWF and not the other way around,
yes.
it's hard not to look like you're chasing something. That's the one thing I will say. It looks like very much we're the second best.
But like we mentioned this when we start covering Thunder, like the Thunder set was like, it was perfect for late 90s. It's that kind of industrial nightclub look that they went for, like the silvers and the blues and the greys. And I feel like the kind of metallic, kind of futuristic look was right. I mean, they're right in the right time period, like mid 99 coming into the 2000s. That was all in fashion.
Yeah. I definitely like the logo more than I necessarily like the set. I love that the set kind of parts in the middle.
Yeah, that was going to be my big...
I don't necessarily love that the entire set is just the logo. But that said, also, I do love it more than New Blood era Nitro set, where it's just like white tarpaulin and a big it looks like a big TV on a stand. Like, at least it's more effort than that. And look, it's another opportunity for us to bemoan that I dearly miss the times of special sets.
Yes.
It made everything feel like more of an occasion.
Yeah, and look, they had, like, Nitro was 4 years old at this stage. Yeah. It was due a revamp.
Absolutely. I wouldn't argue that for a second. But I look at Nitro, you know, even though people have their problems with that Nitro set, I would say I would take that over pretty much any of the 2022 sets. Like, the AEW one is pretty good with the tunnels and stuff, but like even the Raw set, the SmackDown
I have to say,
set,
even the AEW set now is getting long in the tooth.
Yeah, I think the only real upgrade they did to it was when they got like they moved the chandelier up permanently. Do you know, after they were it was just a Cody's entrance thing.
Yeah.
So that's really the only upgrade to it, and I think that's a set that needs evolution rather than revolution,
rather than tearing it apart.
Yeah. I thought it was cool when, like, for certain buildings for a while they were doing the ramp that comes up all the way to the level of the ring. I think that felt like a bit different. I just goes to show that, like, the little things make, you know, go a long way. Absolutely. And you know what, they don't go the whole hog. But I feel like when they have special shows, they do a bit of effort to change it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the set at Grand Slam last year was a bit different. When they these kind of
Daly's Place, they always have that special setup that they have there.
Yeah, they do, you know, a couple of themed shows where they make a bit of effort. Obviously, the show on the Jericho Cruise was completely different. What I really want is the feeling that it's not just this kind of whitewashed anodyne everywhere, could just be in generic building anywhere in the US. Like, make use of the building, make use of the creativity of the people you're already paying to put up your sets. Yeah, it doesn't need to be the big backlash swinging sides or King of the Ring giant electric chair and panes of glass set every week, but like just every so often fucking do something.
Yeah. Give us something to talk about.
Yeah. So we see in the flashback, just to wind us back a little bit, we see Nash going after Goldberg in the main event on Nitro, but as he's doing it, Sting comes down to rescue Goldberg, it would seem, as everybody else bails.
It's a very, very misleading intro, I must say.
Yeah.
When you actually see what actually happens later on in the show.
Yeah, and I think maybe. Do you think maybe that's partly because
Sting didn't actually tell you while he was on his mind?
Yeah, but also this Thunder is pre-taped, yes. So it happens before Sting actually arrived in real life. So they weren't going to put Sting out there on this show. Like, one of the things about that clip from Nitro, which they show twice.
Yes,
they show a longer version of it later on. The thing is, you kind of expect some substantial follow-up in the ring or even in a backstage segment on the show, and you just don't get it. You just get the same segment again, which is kind of disappointing. Like, I'm not saying you need to do an interview with Sting backstage, but like, you could have, here's an interview that after Nitro went off the air where Scott Hudson found Nash running for his limo or something like that, but we didn't even get that, you know. Another substantial change on the show becomes apparent within a couple of seconds of the pyro and ballyhoo, and that is we have our second in the history of this show substantial change up to the commentary team on Thunder. And boy howdy, after the last few weeks, like, we have been like, my assumption was that Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan had actually killed each other after the last couple of weeks, and these were the surviving commentators. But talk about a team that is both an upgrade and a downgrade in one swoop.
Yep.
On the lead, play-by-play, is Mike Tenay, which I think excellent. We've talked about how much we love Mike Tenay before, and I think you can already start to hear the weariness in Tony's voice the last few months, and replacing him with Tenay, somebody who even on these B shows shows a genuine enthusiasm and has a lot of information about the guys who are wrestling, I think is a really good call. But joining him on color commentary is someone that you were glad we were shot of early doors and only get to see half of on these Nitros, and that's Larry Zbyszko.
First of all, on Tenay, he's so, like, he's not Tony. He's so not Tony that it's almost a shock to the system. Yeah. But then the more you listen to him, I don't want him to be Tony. I want him to be Tenay.
No. Yeah.
And it is that kind of, it's a shock to the system, but it's like, okay, no, this actually works. This can work. It makes it feel totally different to Nitro.
Yeah, it feels like, if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of what happens on the show, bell to bell, is kind of the same. Like, a lot of the presentation of the show feels like a reset Thunder.
Yes.
Now, I personally would have held off a week until after the pay-per-view to do all these stylistic resets, but whatever.
Yeah, that was going to be my big thing of why not wait until you have a live Thunder or a first run Thunder, not a fucking second part of a taping. But anyway, WCW will always do it their own way.
WCW gonna WCW.
Zbyszko, I mean, when we started the show, we were both like, oh, fucking Larry was like a breath of fresh air on the show.
Yeah.
And we were very...
Yeah, well, he was the most over character in the first 2 months on Thunder.
Yeah, it was fucking unbelievable. But then, by the time he was actually starting to... Our brain had started to replace him on Thunder, we were glad for him to be gone. I don't know if you know this, Dave, but Larry Zbyszko plays golf.
Yes.
And all he does is talk about playing golf.
Now, I don't think this is the most objectionable I have found him. I think there are other weeks other nights of Nitro where I have found him considerably more grating. But it's not good.
I mean, I don't know if this started as a bit and he's now worked himself into a shoot with the bit. But I found him, like, maybe I was just hoping for more for Tenay, not from Tenay, but for Tenay, like, for this to be a big reboot and for him to like really have his own show. But like Larry just fucking cuts him down constantly on this, cutting across the wrestlers, cutting across Tenay. He has no interest in what's going on in the ring. It was bad for me, like really, really bad.
Yeah. It's like I said, it feels like, you know, the good Lord give it and the good Lord take it away. It very much feels like because of the position Tenay has been in and the position he's in now, he's being promoted, and deservedly so. Mm-hmm. And it feels like Larry is being relegated because of how bad he is to the show that less people watch.
Yeah.
Now, that said, you know, if it's a thing where like Heenan wasn't going to do Thunder again, I don't know who else the fuck you get.
You're not putting Dusty on the show, that's for sure.
You're not putting Dusty on the show. Thankfully, we have a blissful few months yet before anybody has the bright idea to put Mark Madden on commentary. Like I said, you put Scott Hudson on, then you've got the optics of this being WCW Saturday Night.
Yeah, it's too analytic then as well. It's not enough character.
Yeah. God, who else is even around? You know? So like, to some extent, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. There's basically no one. Mm-hmm. I think if this is modern times, what you may have ended up with was just like a rotating second. I'd love Tenay to do a PWG rules where it's like somebody different all the time is coming. Yeah. Because there are some, like, unfortunately, not the people they would choose to do commentary later in the run of this company, but there are definitely some people in the company who could benefit from, like, a match or two on commentary to get themselves or their story over. Like, I would totally deal with, like, Raven on commentary, Jericho on commentary, you know, keep at least two of the Horsemen as far away as possible from commentary, but Arn on commentary would be sensational. I imagine.
Well,
for one match where he's there to tell a story about what the Horsemen are doing, not as an actual sustained run. No.
Yes. Yeah, like just trying to think of the whole roster. I don't think there's anyone that you would say could do it permanently. Maybe Conan if you wanted, but I don't think he would have been in the mindset of putting other people over at this stage in his life.
Do you know, actually, I think if this was 5 years later, they probably would have picked Conan, because it was like the early to mid 2000s where wrestling becomes obsessed with trying to capture the Latino market. And yeah, they probably would have made him, like, him or somebody else, like, a prominent visible member of because Lord knows 5 years from now you wouldn't have him as a prominent wrestler. Sorry, TNA. But yeah, like I said, I'm not as down on this particular Larry appearance as you seem to be, because I remember worse, and I'm kind of like at the stage where I'm more enjoying the novelty of Tenay than hating the presence of Larry.
That's fair.
So we get pretty much straight into it, which gave me hope for this new iteration of Thunder. I think, as we'll get into, Lee, I think some of this card, I looked at it and I was like, this could be a very enjoyable Thunder if everything is given time. Unfortunately, there was that caveat, if everything is given time, and not a lot of things were.
Yeah.
It's so we. Go on,
sorry, I was just going to say, like, I fully like. I don't think I'm as down on the show as you are. I actually quite enjoyed the show for what it was.
Look, it was fine.
But I do agree. I think if everything was kind of given a little bit more room to breathe, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah. Our opening contest, and this very much intrigued me when I was copying over my notes. World Cruiserweight title match: Rey Mysterio versus Evan Courageous. And you know, straight away I was sounding the Jinko's klaxon for Evan Courageous coming out. But I actually thought he was going to wrestle in them, but like the camera cuts to Ray during his entrance, cuts back, and he's stripped down to his jocks and his knee pads.
His outrageous Evan Courageous attire.
Yeah. I suppose, like, he's definitely very green at this stage, but as like Tenay points out on commentary, like, he's less than 2 years in, I think he said. how are you with Evan Courageous over like his period? Because I very much like, shtick aside, we've talked before, and I don't think it'll come as a surprise to a lot of people who watch WCW that 3 Count were actually having some of the better matches on these Dying Days shows.
He's probably my least favourite member of that grouping, that kind of later cruiserweight grouping.
Yeah, he's the least naturally talented wrestler.
Yes. But I also understand he probably had more charisma in his fucking left hand than Shannon Moore had in his whole entire career.
Yeah, and even though he was maybe the least talented wrestler, he's probably the most athletically gifted. Do you know what I mean? Like, the man, for a start, the man looks like he's fucking cut from marble.
Yes.
Like, it's sickening. Do you know what I mean? And it would only get more pronounced over time. Yeah, the definition. Jacked, baby.
What was Courageous an Omega kid?
I don't know.
It's something I kind of just thought of there, but like, I'm trying to remember, like, was he part of that crew? I don't think he was.
I will have a look, but he's
What did you think of his hairstyle, his white boy braids?
Oh no, I didn't care for them. And the worst part is that, like, he pretty much keeps that for his whole run. Mm-hmm. So it only gets less cool as time goes on. So no, he's a power plant graduate.
Okay, he was power plant. Okay.
Yeah. So he was making sporadic appearances as early as 1997.
Wow, so he was literally a rookie on WCW.
As the outrageous Courageous. And I think a very early episode we kind of listed out some of the quote-unquote graduates of the power plant. So the fact that he even got as good as he did is a bit of a shock, really. He was he was one of the people they picked off the roster to do the voice and body scan images to do for the video games.
Oh, okay.
Here you go. An Evan Courageous fact. Are you ready for it?
Go for it.
He was a 1996 spokesmodel for Calvin Klein and the US Olympic Committee. And in 1995, he was a recurring guest star on All My Children.
Very random.
Yeah, so there you go. He played a wrestler on soap opera Passions after he left the Fed. And he has been in smaller independent films such as Crazy Eyes, Shotgun Kiss, and Metal Gear.
Oh,
hello.
Okay.
Oh, we may have like a Courageous at the movies special.
God, no. No more wrestlers in the movies.
You could probably see that coming as soon as I said that.
I was worried where this was going.
I think because he's so green here versus, Tenay talks about the experience differential between the two. He had a great stat here. This is what I love Tenay for, is the little stats. Is that Courageous is 1 year older than Rey Mysterio, but how many is it? He said that Rey had like 8 more years experience on him at this stage, because like he had been a literal child when he started wrestling. So that was cool. I thought, like, in terms of the actual quality of the match, Lee, it wasn't great. It was Rey doing some cool stuff, but mostly you can see it's him training another cruiserweight in the ring.
I thought Rey was very good, like on top of his game at this point. He was exactly where he needed to be for Courageous to look good. I thought Courageous did look good, but when you actually look at the match itself, it's very much Rey doing all the work.
Surface level, it looks like a reasonably competitive match.
Yes, but when you look deeper, you see there's one man that's really doing the legwork here.
He's not. It's not like he's wrestling a broom by any stretch. Like, Courageous is doing some stuff, and he's given a chance to do stuff. But there's definite, like, the difference in class is very visible.
What talking point I want to bring up, and we haven't really talked about it since it's happened. Since Rey Mysterio has lost his mask, I feel like he's actually been booked very well.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually one of the points I had in my mind was, God, there's something great about seeing like beloved Rey Mysterio coming out with fucking 2 belts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and rightfully so. Like, again, I don't harbor any belief that there was a world in which he would be pushed as a world champion in WCW. But
not with the people in the upper card as it was then.
Yeah.
Like, he needed that environment of Eddie and Benoit and people like that coming before him, Jericho.
Yeah.
And people saying, no, like, this guy is one of the best in the world. We need to elevate him.
Yeah. I think it comes back to what we had said in the immediacy after he lost his mask, which is, I would never in a million years book that guy to lose his mask. Mm-hmm. But, like, on the balance of things, they could have done it. Like, I could easily have seen WCW just taking his mask and immediately forgetting about him. Mm-hmm. But they have done, given the fact that they had decided to remove his mask, they did very well thereafter.
Yeah, no, I have to give them credit. Like, he lost the mask to Nash on the pay-per-view. He then pinned Nash. He then went back and established, like, they repeatedly told you this guy is the king of the cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
And
they didn't do, you kind of would have expected Booker Man Nash would be like, I'm going to get my win back and squash this fucker. But he didn't.
No, he didn't. Like, Ray got his win over Nash, then went and won the cruiserweight title because he's absolutely the best cruiserweight. And they kept going with this story of Ray is saying that, like, any cruiserweight can beat any heavyweight. So, like, he may be cruiserweight champion, but he's still a threat to any heavyweight on the roster. And then, of course, himself and Kidman, the 2 top cruiserweights, become tag champs. Now, I know there's extenuating circumstances behind all that, but I mean, they've been tag champs now for 2 weeks. Like, they're mixing it up with the 2 best tag teams in the company at the moment. Like, you have to say, like, it's all been kind of very well done, I think.
Yeah. No, I definitely would agree. And, you know, what you've got in here is, even though he gives Courageous a bit, you are left in no doubt as to who the champion is, who the star is by the end of this match. So one thing I like that you wouldn't see that much from Courageous later in his career is an opportunity for him to play the kind of bigger man and be able to kind of you know, rough up the smaller dude, because he's kind of in that cruiserweight or tag team bracket his whole run. But most, like, a lot of cruiserweights would still be physically bigger than him. And Ray is just, like, the best ever at that. Yeah. The smaller man fighting from underneath. Courageous looks to go for a finish at the end of the match, does a front slam, goes up top. Ray kind of like lurches from the ground, swings out an arm in desperation, crotches him, Frankensteiner, and 3 count. So yeah, nothing spectacular, but did the job. I'm sure in those 5 minutes or so, Evan Courageous learned more than the power plant ever taught him. We get a flashback to the whole Goldberg and Brett deal from Nitro 2 weeks ago. You know, we've said all we really can say about that angle on the Nights of Nitro episode. Go back and listen to that if you haven't already. We then also get, and this was a bit of news since the last time we checked in with WCW, it is confirmed Goldberg versus Nash is happening again at Spring Stampede. And they're hyping it up with a video package here. How did you feel they did about building up this match? Because with this video package, I thought they did an okay job, but I think later on they did hammer it home pretty well.
Yeah, like this was the kind of just the kind of highlighty Goldberg, Nash, you know, the kind of flashing images of each other, wasn't it? And then later on is where they do this segment from Nitro. Yeah. So I thought overall they kind of put over the match very well. Like, it is pretty much a co-main event on the show. So yeah, look, it's a little bit rushed from me, but it's fine.
It feels like it should have had the world title in the mix as well, still. But hey-ho. Next up, we have the show, in terms of quality in the ring, grinding to a fucking halt as it's Wrath versus Damien.
Oh, sorry, as I yawn, this match
Yeah.
fucking sucked.
I did get a chuckle, but I suppose in kayfabe it does make sense. Tenay at the start of this match moaning about how the WCW Championship Committee
Are ignoring
hasn't
Rat,
given
yeah.
they haven't given Wrath a fair shot. Where like, thank God in terms of like his actual quality in the ring at this time.
Well,
particularly since that big injury.
Well, that's because the Booker man was the one that ended Rat's streak.
Indeed. But like as well, this is a guy who his streak has ended. But if you were doing, like, you know, Real Sports Build, in terms of, like, win-loss, he absolutely should have had a world title match at this stage. But it's really funny that, you know, it's not as wacky as it would get, but that in 1999 WCW, Tenay is the sole man that's acting like wins and losses matter in this company.
Yeah.
God bless him flying that flag. Did you feel that... Like, with the best will in the world, I don't think he was trying to do it. But did you feel that in trying to inform folks about Damien, Tenay ended up burying him on commentary throughout this match?
Where he mostly worked hardcore style matches in Japan and Mexico and hasn't really got going in WCW.
Yeah, just 3 or 4 times it's just like, he just doesn't get it here in WCW. Yeah. He just hasn't figured it out.
Like, very much saying that, you know, this is either a Damien problem or a WCW problem, where it's like, God, this guy was a big star in Mexico and Japan, but over here, like, he just can't get going.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like, I'd say maybe if he, you know, when they start, like, a proper...
Hardcore division?
I say proper. When he would probably be more at home in there, but I do agree that, like, he was definitely, and Tenay basically says it, like he was kind of done a disservice because he's mixing it up in the cruiserweight division, and that's not who this guy is at all.
That's not what he was at all. He's a hardcore brawler.
Yeah, and like you remember how many times we were talking about segments of cruiserweights or the LWO, and it's like, oh, here's all these cool flippy dudes we'd love to see more, and Damien is also here. Like, I can't think of anybody from that crop of luchadors that I would like to see less in a cruiserweight division match. And it also felt like really he was sent out to die in this match. Because it's not, it'd be one thing if Tenay was like, oh, he hasn't found his niche yet, and then he ends up getting a surprise win or puts on a really battling performance. It's like, hey, Damien's got direction now. It's like, no, he comes out, Tenay is talking about how, you know, he doesn't really fit in this company, and he gets fucking killed to bits.
Yeah, and like if they put a smaller cruiserweight in there for Rat to kind of throw around and look impressive, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Damien's not a small dude, and he really doesn't bump like spectacularly. No.
And the other thing as well is, you know, 3 hours into watching Thunders, this crowd fucking hated this match. Bunch of people dressed as chairs on the hard cam, as well as just no reactions to anything. Like, you can just hear people are just fucking talking. Yeah. Like, it's that buzz of people talking, but not in an interested way.
If people had phones, they would have been looking at their phones.
Did you happen to catch Larry Zbyszko thoroughly exposing the business in this match?
I did not, but go on, tell me how.
Okay, so they are talking about the baseball. They are talking about how, you know, there was a game on last night. Thunder will be back at its normal slot next week, but they're also hyping up. There's a big show going on for the 25th anniversary of Hank Aaron hitting his record-setting home run.
Oh, yeah.
So they're talking about Hank Aaron. And Larry mentions, because, you know, Larry is always one to talk about how he's best friends with all the famous people. You know, him and Jackie Chan go way back and stuff like that. And he says that, you know what? I've met Hank Aaron a number of times here in Atlanta.
Oh, my God.
When he is supposed to be in the building in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, Larry.
So that is the last, like, you know, Tony has come very close. We've read between the lines a couple of times where you could tell Tony and the gang aren't there for the taped one. Mm-hmm. But this is the truly, like, you cannot mistake, like, that Larry was in Atlanta saying this and didn't cop that he was supposed to be working himself. Yeah. the other thing about the commentary in this match, I think this was like, even though the match was bad, I suppose at least it gave me a chance to listen into Tenay a bit better. And Tenay just seems happier in this role.
He seems freer, yeah.
Yeah. Without the two lads shitting on him, without having to kind of like just be the, hey, we're coming to you for a nerdy stat and then we're not going to talk to you for 5 minutes guy. Like some people might be, as the lead announcer on one of the big shows in a company, they might like take a while to get used to it, but he just feels
just slotted
like
right
a natural.
in,
Yeah. There's Wrath does a submission move that Tenay reveals Larry gave a name to called the Web, which looks like shit. It's just like he's kind of like stretching him and he's got a bit of a chin lock in or around the turnbuckle. Didn't look good, Lee.
Yeah.
Nothing in this match really looks good until the very end.
Really, until the meltdown, nothing actually looked impactful in this match.
Pretty much the only moves Damien gets in a match that was too long, entirely too long, is he gets a couple of kicks in when Wrath is trying to do a corner charge, and he scores a couple of near falls off roll-ups. And Lee, I have never seen less of a fuck be given for near flash pins in my life.
And nobody cares. Like it's unfortunate.
I don't even. It's not even that they don't care. I don't think they noticed.
Again, this is a case of people would have been looking at their phones, so obviously they're too busy having conversations at this point to actually watch the ring.
Like, I would literally believe they were looking at the floor rather than look in the ring at this. He gets a little bit of a comeback, like I said, with the kicks and stuff like that. But then death penalty and one of the most emphatic meltdowns I've ever seen.
Yeah. It is a
planted the cunt.
I do love it. Pump handle power slam.
Yeah, it's good shit. But it was not a good match. Next up, Gene in the ring with Conan. He is set to wrestle Disco Inferno this Sunday, which should be an absolute classic, eh?
I'm saving all my thoughts on this matchup for when we get to the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Something I noticed during this segment, the sound mix between the commentary and the music, the entrance music, is fucking terrible.
Awful.
Which is especially bad considering they recorded the commentary on a separate track on a different day.
Yep.
It's not like it's a live mix where some of the music is coming in through their mics. They are in a studio in Atlanta. Thanks, Larry.
They could have fixed this. They just chose not to.
They had a whole week. A whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, look, I'm not a sound engineer, but I don't imagine it's the hardest thing in the world to fix given the circumstances and given how much fucking money this company has.
I'm going to guess if you actually had a producer there producing the commentary, they would have mixed it properly.
Yeah. It would be interesting. Maybe that's something we should keep track of, like, because the sound mix sometimes is horseshit. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, is there a trend of it happening more on these tape shows where, like, clearly no one gives a shit?
No one's paying attention, yeah.
Yeah. So, they talk about how Disco has been making fun of his music videos. So the Disco parody of the Conan music video has come out. Maybe we should watch it for the pay-per-view if they don't show it on the pay-per-view, but I think they might.
They
so
do show
I
it
want
on the
to wait.
I have so many memories of watching that music video.
So I haven't seen it in many, many years, so I'm going to wait until the pay-per-view.
Now, it might not be on the network. That's the only thing. Actually, I was thinking about this. So WWE refused to play DDP's song, Raven's song, Jericho's song, because they're sound-alikes. All, Jimmy Hart's originals in inverted practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we get full Conan tracks.
Yeah.
Untouched.
Which is funny because of, like, the relationship that company has with Conan.
Yes.
Where he has been persona non grata there since the early to mid-90s. Yeah. He's one of the people, like, the way they always used to say is, like, Vince would do business with anybody he kicked out or barred from the place. Like, he did business again with Warrior, he did business again with Double J. Now that Vince is gone, the one is probably Conan.
Yeah.
He was never back.
No. I mean, Vince could never forgive him for turning down Max Moon.
I know. Well, who could? Who could? So I one thing I like that I'm honestly not sure was intentional. He's talking about how he's going to beat up Disco, and he keeps referring to the pay-per-view as Spring Stampede.
Stampede, yeah. That's my one big takeaway from this interview.
He kept calling it Spring Stampede.
It's like Norman Smiley.
Yeah. Hoovy and La Cucaracha come out. And okay, so I hate the La Cucaracha thing. It is definitely racist.
I don't know, Dave. What makes
well, we don't know who it is. We don't know who it is.
You cannot prove that is not a Latino man.
Yes, I can't. But what I love about this, smartest man in the room, Conan, from second one is having none of this bullshit and just keeps going, that's Disco.
Yeah, I mean, then Gene joins in, cutting across Hoovy multiple times, going, I can hear his New York accent.
Yeah. And, like, this wasn't the word, like, it wasn't Gene trying to stir fights, which we've really hated. But Gene did keep interrupting Hoovy, whose English is at best shaky, and I thought that wasn't helpful at all.
I mean, I don't know if having the Mexican guy with shaky English translate for the American guy who's pretending to be Mexican was really the best idea.
There is a tremendous line from Conan about that in a second, but I'll get to it. For the first, he goes, because he's wearing a Mil Mascaras mask, and Conan says the M on his mask is appropriate because he's a punk Mark Busta, which I enjoyed. And this is maybe the cleverest line I've heard in weeks in WCW. He goes, Hoovy's English, this is Conan saying this, Hoovy's English is worse than Disco's Spanish, which is even worse than Disco's wrestling. And the best then is you can hear Gene slightly off mic going, I agree. Absolute deep beneath the earth burial. That was tremendous. Conan says, translate this, and does his RLA, grabs his crotch, breaks down into a bit of a brawl, and the heels bail. I gotta say as well, Gene instantly teleported out of the ring.
Oh,
I've never seen that man move quicker.
Well, maybe if there was an open bar.
So I thought this was not a great segment.
No.
I thought Hoovy was bad, Gene was bad, Disco was bad. But I thought Conan was great.
I wouldn't say great, but he was the best of a bad bunch. How about that?
Yeah, okay. I think he got his point across. He's going to beat the shit out of Disco. He got his point across that he's not being fooled by them. He got the last laugh. He was more over than anybody on this show to that point, which is not really a high bar.
I still think Ray was more over.
Maybe.
But also, Ray enters to Conan's music, so.
Yes. I thought, so, like, he and Ray are we'll put it this way, he and Ray are the only two people on this show so far who came off like a star or a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And I do like that Conan keeps referring to himself and Ray as a team now. Yeah, they're pals. And unfortunately now he's wrestling Disco, and even more unfortunately for him, he will pretty much remain in Disco's orbit for almost the entire rest of this company's run. Because nothing changes from here on out.
No. Yeah, we hope you like WCW now, and the people that people are feuding with now, because it doesn't change that much anymore, ever. God, I despair even thinking of that. We get a recap of the Nash and Goldberg confrontation from Nitro. I thought Goldberg looked terrible in this segment.
Oh, God. Why are you sending Goldberg out there to do a tumbler draw for his next opponent?
Yeah. But even just his lines felt so stilted and shit like that.
I mean, once again, it's the Booker man across from him who's probably told him what to say.
Yeah. When he should just, like, either say fuck all or, like, just literally nothing.
All Nash had to do was come out and challenge Goldberg. Anyway.
Challenge Goldberg, have Goldberg mean mug him, and then end the segment with him spearing Nash.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to say a word. Mm-hmm. Except, like, You're next. He can do You're next. I'll let him do that. He can do You're next pretty good.
Maybe Goldberg should have insulted his son.
Just really, really poor from him. And again, one of the... Like, there is some stuff that we can go, right, fair play. Either... You can either go, Nash has booked this well, or you can go, well, Nash hasn't fucked this up. But this is one of the things where, like, he has made their most bankable asset, if handled right.
He looks lost, yeah.
He looks lost. He looks, yeah.
Well, this is Nash in very much, look, I'll do jobs mode.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Hardcore Hack versus Mikey Whipwreck. They finally, during this match, explain why Mikey Whipwreck has been completely absent since the pay-per-view, and that was he got injured, and This is his first match back.
Sounded like a sore injury as well. He injured his heel.
Yeah, it was a severely bruised heel, he said. They do a Saturday Night plug in the middle of the entrances here, so we may be at the end of Saturday Night getting its own little vignette, unfortunately. But we do hear that the first members of the First Family, Barb and Meng, will be there. We've got a Steiner versus Finlay rematch as well. Look, I'm going to say this now. With all the love in my heart I have for what an endearing character Mikey Whipwreck was in ECW, his wardrobe is a crime.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in 1999 WCW.
It worked so much for him in ECW and what that character was and everything. And like, I was trying to find a way to word my critique of this, because you and I do appreciate when, you know, these wrestlers come into companies and they don't completely ignore where they've been before. Like, we loved the references to Beulah in the Raven promo, for example. Right? But this is one where they should have used this opportunity to, like, I'm not saying the guy needs to come out in a fucking singlet.
No, but what I do know, I know where you're going, is if he had just lost the t-shirt.
Yeah. Or had a less fucking garish t-shirt.
Yeah, maybe.
You know? Or if he didn't look like he was covered shoulders to feet in knee pads.
Well, that was the one I was going to bring up, was the knee pads on the boots.
Yeah.
So he has the little shitty wrestler boots.
Yeah.
And then he has knee pads over them. Which I didn't understand.
The match, not up to much. Running theme of the show. Mikey hit some nice arm drags at the start. Hack fucked himself up twice in this match, to the surprise of absolutely no one. The first one is they do a side Russian leg sweep spot where Mikey gives him the side Russian leg sweep. Into the guardrail, and Hack takes a full-on header, back of the head, right into the metal, which looked like it fucking sucked. Second only to Hack does the kind of dangling hangman's leg drop on the onto Mikey on the fence, and if you told me Hack blew out his quad in this match or his hamstring,
that would have been the spot.
would not have been surprised, because he is limping after this, and then he does it again in the ring where he's where Mikey is dangling on the ropes. And it looked like it genuinely hurt him to do it. And then he did another slingshot leg drop on a chair.
Yep. I think it's fair to say Hack ran out of moves to perform. I will say, for two people that know each other, had wrestled multiple times before,
yeah,
they had very little chemistry in this match.
Very little chemistry. And really all they had to do was do a garbage brawl, and like at the end they do like a few weapon spots which get the crowd going a bit more. You know, and if they had stuck with that for the whole thing instead of like just spamming the same couple of moves, because as well the Russian leg sweep is done 3 or 4 times in this match, which is weird because it's like it's Hack's finish, and the first person who does it is Mikey.
Yep.
You know, it's very odd the way this match was put together. as I said, the chair is in the ring. Hack calls Chastity to throw the kendo stick in, but as it's being thrown in, and I did like this bit. This is probably the smartest bit of the match. Mikey's on the floor, and as he sees the thing fly in, he grabs the chair with his hand, and he rams the top of the chair into Hack's knee, and he sells it. And then he grabs the kendo stick and proper fucking cracks him a couple of times. Hack ducks, grabs the kendo stick, Russian leg sweep with it. I thought
I was just going to say the finish was the most impressive part.
Yes, the finish was like if the momentum of the finish could have been dragged out of the entire match, I would have loved this shit.
Yeah, like
the finish was really clever.
The two cane shots to the head, he goes for the third, and like in a pretty fluid motion, Hack ducks, grabs the kendo stick, and uses it in his, what I think he'd go on to call the white Russian leg sweep.
Yeah.
And it had a bit of snap to it as well. It wasn't just like a little kind of Russian leg sweep. It was a proper snap to the way he did it. So that was impressive.
Very enjoyable finish. And then let's mark down person number 3 on this show who came off like a big star. Bam Bam comes out, and he got a big reaction. Mm-hmm. And this is like House of Fire, big, tough, sort of baby face.
He's kind of slipped into a babyface role now,
Yeah. He comes out swinging wild, lays Sandman out with a greetings from Asbury Park, threatens to deck Chastity as well.
Threatens to fucking murder Chastity with the kendo stick.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, he fucking swings that thing, and if she doesn't move, that's on her.
Out in his street clothes as well, we should point out. Yeah. Shirt and jeans. But yeah, I thought like they're setting up. They're talking about how like Bam Bam is still aggrieved. They had mentioned at the start of the match about the fire extinguisher at the pay per view with Chastity. Felt that he was going to declare himself as the most hardcore person in the company when he won that match, and it was taken from him. So, the feud continues. I think the finish and the post match angle were pretty damn good, but I think the 4 or 5 minutes it took to get there were not great.
Yeah, and I mean, look, ultimately they're building to a match at the pay per view, so they've done well there, I think.
We then did a Scott Steiner promo video. Again, we are big proponents of the 30 to 60 second put over your big stars highlight package. Mm-hmm. And then we go to Lee. This is going to become a recurring bit on our show whenever this man appears for the remainder of the times he appears. I am going to sit back. I have written no notes except for what the finish was. This is the Lee Malone match of the week as Super Calo takes on your main man, Blitzkrieg. And I noted during the entrances, the other note I have written down here is that on the hard cam, there was a young child with the sign. I think it was a young child, maybe a teenager, had a sign saying, "I mark for Blitzkrieg." And this is what I'm assuming you were doing on your brother's birthday that year.
It's quite possible I was. Who knew Jack Evans was in Richmond, Virginia? That's all I'll say. Yeah, I mean, look, this, first of all, has to be a matchup between the two coolest guys in WCW at this point.
Oh, yes. 100%.
I mean, Super Calo, always the freshest looking cruiserweight.
Yeah. Are we probably in 2022 the biggest Super Calo boosters on the earth?
Probably, yeah. I mean, look, we say this all the time. Of all the cruiserweights they could have used way more, Super Calo is the one.
Yeah. Well, I think we said...
Liz Mark Jr. always impresses us anytime you see him.
Liz Mark Jr. and Silver King are the two where we're like, oh God, I wish they'd show up more.
I think
Silver Calo
would have been more of a meme, I think.
Yeah, but Super Calo is the one who's definitely at all these shows that they could have used more. The other guys, I'm betting, only come in every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, Calo, fucking, like, again, I didn't take a ton of notes on this because I just kind of sat back and enjoyed the match for what it was.
It's one of those that it's actually, because it's Blitzkrieg and because of his style, it's a fucking nightmare to try and type in time with him to write down spots.
And it's funny, like, Blitzkrieg, who, like, I've talked about fucking numerous weeks now at this stage, He does.
You've been talking about it for 20 years, man.
He does so many flips and fucking spins and twists, and yet it's Super Calo who does the most dangerous move in the fucking match. He does his slingshot senton from the ring to the outside. Mm-hmm. And he lands it, and he just no-sells it because he's straight back up.
He takes the two scariest bumps because he does that, and then to lead to the Sky Twister in the finish, Blitzkrieg just grabs him by the top of the mask and yanks and spins him off the top rope, which I can't imagine there's a way to take that where it doesn't suck a bit.
Now, right before that, where Super Calo does a bridging German suplex, and let me tell you, fucking Blitzkrieg folded like the proverbial fucking accordion because his toes were touching the top of his fucking head. But yeah, like, just for me, a cool ass match on what was a kind of dead ass crowd at this stage.
Yeah. Gave them a little something.
Again, I've said this, as long as Blitzkrieg's around, I'm just going to sit back, appreciate it for what it was. This guy could have been so much more because he's an American luchador, and that's what he is.
Yeah.
And that's
true and true.
Like, at this point in 1999, there was not, an industry of American luchadors.
Yeah. Certainly not.
And
we then get...
I was just going to say, sorry, to finish, the Sky Twister press.
Yeah.
How cool is that in 1999?
Oh, it's unlike anything you've seen at that time. Again, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people who go back now, who can't, have that thought in their head that, like, this wasn't an everyday thing. Like, I think if you're somebody who watches The Independents now and you go back and it's like, yeah, I see that, like, fucking 100 times on name indie show. But, like, just what a trendsetter for that style he was.
Can I make a comparison, right? So, in 1994, Rey Mysterio came along and fucking amazed the world, basically, with what he was capable of doing.
Yeah.
By 1999, there were so many more people, luchadors, fucking Japanese juniors, American indie wrestlers that could do all Rey Mysterio could do and more, but they still weren't Rey Mysterio.
No.
In 1995, ECW was doing the most hardcore, violent, unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
By 2002, 2003, CCW were using fucking weed whackers and fucking murdering each other with glass and whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And, you had Tournament of Death and all these things, and Nick Cage actually dying in the field. Yeah. But still, CCW was never ECW.
It never, like, it obviously had its fans, and it still does somehow.
Yeah, but it never...
But it never meant as much as ECW did.
And that's what I want to say. Like, yeah, you can watch Nick Wayne, you can watch Lars Strella from Dragon Gate, you can watch whoever do all these incredible, smooth, amazing things with their bodies in a ring. But you can't comprehend that in 1999 you were watching this American luchador do these amazing things. And
part of it is the evolution of wrestling, that over time things change and the things that once were special are no longer. I think the all-time classic example of that is the DDT. So Jake Roberts does the DDT, and it's just like, you've never seen shit like that before. It's just it's a devastating finishing hold. And then for a long, long time, it just becomes, with rare exceptions, it just becomes a move in a match. Things like the sleeper, the superplex, things that would have been considered like, oh my God, is that man still alive? Are now just spots. And that's just the way the business goes. And that's not good. It's not bad. It's just the way, it's just the cyclical nature of things. Like now, fans like us absolutely lose it for, like, really good, selling of limbs, for example. That's something you and I both love here. And that's, stuff that's... I think since maybe AEW came to prominence, it's something that like we're seeing a lot more of because, you know, in WWE time was that shit didn't happen and the independents were kind of like pretty obsessed with how many spots can we fit into the time we have allowed. So they're one of the companies, and New Japan obviously, but I'm kind of more thinking from an American perspective here because we're talking about an American luchador. AEW helped bring some of that stuff back, and the wrestlers they employed obviously. Fucking look, do you know something from the old school that is back in fashion now, that I really love, talking about something really big that happened last week, Punk returning, and Punk was in real life overselling the injury so you wouldn't think he was back. And that's something that, like, look, once a guy is like healthy in the sense that like there's no career shortening, life shortening damage to them, I'm quite happy to be worked on injuries 100%. So that it's a genuine surprise when people are back. Like, for example, you know, the night before this podcast is supposed to post, you know, this post on Thursday, we're recording this on Tuesday, we're pretty sure Kenny Omega is showing up on Dynamite this week, but because he has been selling this injury like he will never wrestle again. And they have been, you know, using sources in the media by telling them this stuff so that they're reporting it as true. It leaves you with an element of doubt that I'm not going to be angry if he doesn't show up. And I'm going to be thrilled if he does. And I appreciate anything different now,
100%.
You know?
I mean,
and that's something at the time you never knew when people were coming back. They were genuine surprises, you know?
Yeah, because not everybody was on the internet, and not everybody had fucking mobile phones and fucking cameras and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I suppose, like, to encapsulate like all that stuff we were talking about that we really enjoy. We really enjoy any wrestler, any program, any angle, anything that makes us feel the way about wrestling that we did when we were growing up.
Exactly.
That sums it all up. You know? And yeah, Blitzkrieg is definitely one of those guys that he just takes you back.
Yeah, exactly. He just takes me back to being that kid, seeing him for the first time.
Yeah, and you are going to be in for a treat on our next podcast in that case. When we get to the pay per view.
Oh no, listen, I know this pay per view off by fucking heart, so I am well aware of what's coming.
It's gonna be a party time at that pay per view because this is the fucking death rattle.
I might go 3 hours just on that Hoovy Blitzkrieg match. So
yeah, and I won't stop you. Right, then we get an ad for WCW Smash and Slam wrestlers. Talk about stuff that takes you back, the kind of like boy stuff ads for wrestling figures that really takes me back. I think maybe the first wrestling figures I ever owned, Lee, were knockoff WCW wrestling figurines of DDP and Raven that came in the same set.
I'd love.
I think
I was going to say, I'd love to know what their names were.
No, it was them.
Oh, it was them.
Okay. No, it was them, and it was like, but I think it was bootleg in as much as like I don't think this was the licensed toy manufacturer.
Okay, right.
They were definitely using WCW logos and the lads themselves. And the more I think about it, I was like, who were the next two I bought? And I was really putting together a worker's fed in my wrestling figures, because the next two I bought were Jericho and Angle.
Oh, wow.
So like, what a four. And I never, now that I think about it, like I never owned a figure of The Rock or Stone Cold. I don't think I ever owned Shawn, because he would have been, by the time I was getting wrestling figures, he would have been retired. Yeah, weird. I think I got those four, and then I got myself a WWF title, one of the foam ones. I think that was the way it went. I also had, at one stage, I remember having the European title.
Like the actual European title?
Not the actual one, but one of the foam ones, because like what I really wanted was the Intercontinental title, because I loved that.
You loved that oval design, yeah.
I really do, because again, like, you know, one of my favorite times with that belt, because I wasn't I was big tail end of New Generation. It's stuff like the Benoit Jericho feud and shit like that, you know, that takes me back. Yeah, God, I love that belt. That's probably one of the, we've talked about before how we'd love kind of some of the, like, the proper replicas as ornaments in our offices. And, like, I think the 3 for me would probably be, like, Big Gold, Winged Eagle, and that Intercontinental title. I think those are the 3.
And for me, it'd be the WCW US title.
Yeah.
Probably the Undisputed title, the black, the gold black.
Such an underrated belt. I feel like I've only seen in the last few years people really start to give that belt credit. It was around for such a short period of time.
That one, and I really love the classic, like 1990 through 97-ish WWF Tag Team title.
Yeah.
Like LOD, Money Inc., Shawn and Diesel, that era.
Yeah. I love the like if I had to pick a WWF title, it would be Winged Eagle, but I've always loved the Big Blue Eagle.
Yes, the one that was only around a year or so.
I really like that belt. The Art Deco style on it. And again, it reminds me of, like, the height of my obsession with wrestling as a child was like 99, 2000, which is when that belt was, the Triple H Rock feud.
Yeah, it really felt like that belt wasn't around for long because that was introduced the night after WrestleMania 14 for, the Austin Vince kind of segment.
And it went away after the unification. Well, no, after Triple H.
Yeah, so it was
wasn't a triple. Yeah,
so it was around.
So it wasn't when Jericho unified it. He was carrying around 2 belts the whole time.
So it was around for 3 years, but it was kind of in and out at the time because Austin had the Smoking Skull for a long time.
Yeah, and then of course Invasion happens, so there's a second world title.
So it never really had that focus on it.
Yeah, but I think it's the design of it is gorgeous, even if it doesn't have the history attached to it that I of the Winged Eagle, or I suppose like the Undisputed title was around for fuck all time as well. The way it was, 2 years?
God, probably not even. Well, JBL had
2002 till when did Cena win it? 2004, so 2 years. Yeah. And what a belt that was. That's in my head. That's the Brock belt.
Oh yeah, the one you see Brock holding. Yeah.
The Brock belt, the Eddie belt. Yeah. That's what it is to me, and I do love that design. There's one thing, do you know when the Triple H takeover happened, and people were having the narrowest of vain hopes that things might improve? In my head, I was one of the things is maybe the next iteration of belts
they won't
actually look like wrestling belts,
walking fucking brands.
Yeah. But we've talked about that before. We get a Horseman versus Raven and Saturn recap. We've talked before about how we're super into this feud. Then we get this was fine, but I think when you see this on the run sheet and you think this is the one I was most thinking of, I was like, if this gets time, this will blow away maybe anything we've seen on Thunder so far. It's Raven versus Benoit, and I think it only got to the level of being grand.
Yeah, no, I think it got time, and it probably went longer than we actually saw.
Yeah,
but I think second half of a taping, these guys are just kind of going through the motions.
They got they got more time than anyone else on this show, but they didn't get as much as I would give them. And yeah, like you said, I don't think they were going out there to fucking kill it.
They weren't. I think they knew what they had coming up. Obviously, Raven and Saturn would have a big title match the following Monday, because this was obviously taped before Nitro. And they'd really do a big angle on the Monday, on the Nitro before this. So, I just get the feeling that this was booked to kill time on the show, to have something that actually they could show on Thunder the following week, where they knew, these guys are in a feud, this is a grand match we can just throw out for 12 minutes in front of the crowd or whatever. But I just felt like they never really got going. We saw some great matches between these two last year.
Yeah. And that's what got me proper jazzed about it. And there were moments, don't get me wrong. there was I did laugh early on in the show. They talk about, Raven being busy, and one of the reasons they mentioned he was busy is mentioning the cursed Jesse Ventura movie he was filming. But we won't get back into that. Early on, it follows the pattern of a lot of the matches between these two guys, where it's Benoit making him hurt and Raven just absorbing punishment. Throws him out of the ring. Raven and Aaron have words, grab each other kind of by the throat. Benoit does a baseball slide drop kick, which kind of clips both men. There's some drama of like, is Aaron distracting Little Nate, or is he just talking to him? Yeah. Because, Tenay definitely hits home as like about how like even his license plate says Fort Flair. Both men out on the floor. Raven gets a chair, does the drop toe hold, and I thought one of the best sell jobs in the whole show was Aaron selling concern for Benoit after eating the drop toe hold. Like genuine, I'm going to hit the ring concern. Benoit goes for the headbutt, eats the chair, and the reason I wanted to put this in here is like, again, with everything, with the Benoit of it all, we've talked about head trauma a lot on this show, but I thought I have seen him go head first into the ring when he misses headbutts. I've seen him go head first into chairs. I think this was one of the safer ones he ever did.
Yeah, it really was. Like, I was watching it going, oh, now we're going to have to talk about him headbutting a chair. But he really does it very safely, to be fair.
If you watch this quite carefully, there's like definitely a couple of inches of air between him and the chair. If only, eh? So, eats chair. Raven gets up first. He goes for the even flow. Aaron hits the ring for the DQ. Hate DQ finishes, but again, this was kind of one of those, because the Horsemen are heels at the moment. Once it's not overdone, I like the idea of like Aaron can't abide this little shit beating one of his, thoroughbred stallions. So he gets in. Then we end up with a proper schmoz. Saturn's out. Then Malenko comes out to save Aaron. I think maybe the post-match went on a bit too long, but they did get the point home. Vicious beatdown. Babyfaces are dead. Aaron gets on the mic and talks about the Horsemen, and I did like this bit where he's like, he calls back to his previous promos when he was bringing the Horsemen back together, and he's like, bring back the Horsemen, Aaron, reminding him that it was the fans that asked for it, he wasn't looking for it, and he said, you asked for it, the Horsemen are back, and this is the result. Yeah. So this is on the fans, be careful what you wish for, which is something he said very often. Yeah.
I did love that, a nice little callback of, yeah, these guys are now asshole heels, and Aaron is going, no, this is what yous wanted. This is on yous. I did enjoy during the beatdown that Benoit laid out Raven with the even flow, and Saturn, or Malenko did the DVD to Saturn. So I love, like, that just makes this even more personal.
Now, Lee, there's a flashback to Nitro, and this is something we have not mentioned yet. It's Sting's announcement.
Yes. That they plugged very heavily.
Yes. You want to let people know what that announcement was?
I mean, it's probably the most amazing announcement I've ever seen.
I mean, in some ways, I was amazed.
Because not only does he wait until the main event to decide to share this announcement,
yeah,
he gives this proclamation, you might call it, without actually opening his mouth.
Yeah. Now,
unless Sting is very good at impressions, and he paid off somebody in the truck, that as he... So we have... like, I'm going to have to explain this. So the main event of the show is Goldberg versus DDP versus Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair.
Yeah.
In what I think was actually a title match.
Yes.
A 4-way title match.
Think so.
6 days before the pay-per-view. With Kevin Nash on commentary. So we get extended highlights of whatever was going on here. Goldberg would take out Hogan, DDP, and Flair with spears. Hogan would actually kick it out after his spear. He was the last one to eat a spear. He would kick out. He would then get up to his feet, attempt to suplex Goldberg would reverse into a jackhammer. Kevin Nash would then miss his cue to break up the pin, and Hulk Hogan will be forced to kick out of the jackhammer, which the commentators totally ignore.
Yeah.
Nash comes in. Charles Robinson, for reasons unknown, throws out the 4-way match as a DQ. And just as he does that, Sting rappels down from the roof. He runs off everybody except Goldberg, apparently. He then proceeds to point his bat out to the crowd. He then goes to the other side of the ring and points the bat out to the crowd. The camera is, we should say, the camera at this point is hard focused on Sting, so you aren't actually seeing what he's pointing at. He then turns and points at the new Jumbotron or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he throws his voice to sound just like the Macho Man Randy Savage.
This is the fucking weirdest video.
Which, as Randy Savage is speaking, the words are being...
Yeah, it's like a shitty PowerPoint.
Yeah, so the words are, as he's speaking out whatever he's saying there's a 4-way match at the pay-per-view. It will be a WCW World Heavyweight title match. It'll be Ric Flair versus Hollywood Hogan versus DDP versus Sting.
Yeah.
And there will be a special referee of the one, the only Macho Man Randy Savage. So Sting's big announcement was to come back, say nothing, and bring Macho Man Randy Savage with him.
What I love as well is that Savage says, refereed by me. And then as if people did not recognize the most extremely recognizable voice on planet Earth, he hits an "oh yeah" as well, just so you're sure who it is.
So that big fucking announcement that he spent the whole episode of Thunder plugging wasn't actually Sting.
Yeah, it wasn't him making the announcement. It wasn't him saying a word. It was just him doing a big point.
Now, I'm gonna give them some...
Do you think, like, the clicker for the PowerPoint is in the end of his bat and that's why they needed him?
I'm actually...
or like they did with the Undertaker's urn where they had the spotlight coming out of it. What if they could do it where it's like a laser pointer coming out of
as the words are coming up, Sting's pointing at him?
It's a sting-along.
Sting-along. I'm gonna give WCW some credit here. So,
God forbid.
Sting and Macho Man had one thing in common when they both went out injured.
Yeah.
They were both members of the Wolfpack.
They were.
And now they're back. They are no longer members of the Wolfpack.
Yes.
I'm gonna give some slight credit to bringing them back together. Kind of together, maybe not together. Nobody really knows.
Yeah. Do they even really know?
No, but look, they've brought them back on the same night, and they're obviously working somehow together because Sting knew Macho Man was about to speak. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to give them some slight credit for that one.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. You're being very generous.
I am.
Yeah.
But I'm going to think that hopefully somebody in the room thought, you know what, they were both members of the Wolfpack. They're both coming back at the same time. Let's do a deal where they're working together to destroy everybody else.
Main event is the WCW World Television title. It's Booker T versus man who knew he was on a tape show, Chris Jericho.
It's also a MAD title defense.
Yes, it certainly is. Jericho on the mic. He's got a taped up elbow. And this is the part where it's most apparent he knows he's on a tape show because this promo is just him playing the hits. It's just him listing out almost all his catchphrases. Yeah, in sequential order. I like the early story of this match is that Jericho cannot hang wrestling with the champ. Booker T looks very strong here, looking fucking jacked as well. He just looks fucking enormous compared to Jericho. And he can't hang with Booker. So, like, Tenay is going, or actually it was Larry who was saying, he's going to have to take shortcuts. Like, it's the only way he's getting out of this match. It's the only way he might win the title. And he talks about how, look, there's no shame in it. I spent 30 years using shortcuts and stuff like that. He actually had another great line on this show of like classic fucking Larry putting himself over in spite of everybody else, where he talks about how, you know, Ric Flair's the world champ, that fucker's been ducking me for... Yeah. Which is like, is good continuity, but it's also like, Larry, fucking, the time has passed.
I'm pretty sure that was in the first match where he just like can't help himself.
Yeah, he's just fucking booking himself into a feud with Flair there, like. So I will say this is the best Larry is on the whole show during this match, because he does a tremendous job putting over Booker.
It's funny that the commentators, when it's people they like in the ring, actually seem to do the job that they're paid for.
Yeah. He talks about the dude's size, his strength, his conditioning, things like that. They do a really good job talking up Booker here.
We'd see it in previous weeks or months even, that when Jericho's on the show, Tony is actually doing the job he's supposed to do. Like you said, you see it here with Zbyszko and Booker.
Yeah. Is it any shock that, you know, Tony's big return to wrestling was in the company that Jericho ended up in, I wonder?
I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
Yeah. So Jericho has enough and tries to bail. Booker won't let him. Gets back in the ring, and I will say, Jericho, it's not his greatest performance, but a 5-star shriek as his back body dropped out of the ring again.
That was great.
I liked how they got to the heat spot in this, like, rather than some big dastardly move, and we gotta go to a break. It was literally just reverse whip into the fence. And Jericho takes control of the match. Action starts speeding up towards the end. We get a ref gets bumped off. Is it Jericho is doing like a flapjack? Yeah, and bumps into the ref. Booker spinneroonies out of that. Harlem's sidekick. He goes up top. Scott Steiner is out. Hits him with a chair while he's on the top rope. And this is funny. So he hits him. He comes off the top rope. And as Jericho is getting the walls in is when I remembered this was a martial arts division title match, and I bit on the finish. I was like, for like a second there, I was like, oh my God. I was starting to get worried, is like the title is going on a guy who is out of this company in a couple of months.
I actually had the same thought. I was like, shit, I didn't realise Jericho won the TV title now.
Yeah. So then Stevie Ray comes out, hits him with a slapjack, and it's over. So the match was fine. And again, it was an interference-laden main event on a Thunder, which we as a rule hate.
But it's playing into a storyline that's coming.
Two stories at the same time.
So I didn't hate it.
Yeah. Like, again, it's something we've always said. As a rule, we hate them. But if you're going to do them, have them mean something.
Like, it was the last Thunder where they had the backstage segment with Steiner or Hogan talking shit on Booker, saying Steiner's going to beat the shit out of him, they're going to weaken him, and Stevie saying, hang on, no, that's not on, that's my brother, he's off limits. And now we see Steiner apparently got involved in the match on Monday. He's now got involved in this match on Thunder, and Stevie is like, nah, fuck this, I'm going to help him.
Yeah. And it's also paying into, like, again, the final of the US title tournament, as well as the possible Harlem Heat getting back on the same page. It's all so good. It's like that part of it I'll absolutely give them. Right, Lee. Before we go to our typical end of a pay-per-view cycle game, I need your overall thoughts on the show and your winners and losers.
It wasn't a bad show. Like, it really wasn't a bad show.
No. There have definitely been worse go-home shows. Yeah. There have definitely been better.
I'm struggling with it because I did enjoy it, but there was so much of the show that I didn't enjoy, if that makes sense. Like, where stuff just should have been better, should have been more. But I really do think they did a good job this month hammering home just what's on the pay-per-view this Sunday. And I think Tenay especially did that very, very well without overdoing it.
Yeah.
So they really hit that sweet spot for me this month.
Yeah, winners and losers.
Winners and losers. Can I say Blitzkrieg and Callow?
Yeah, you sure can. It's your, you have the office, sir.
I think Blitzkrieg, Callow, and Rey Mysterio for me were like just the three standout performers on the show. Loser.
I'd like to add one to your list of winners for once. Normally, I'm in complete agreement with you, but I'm going to add Mike Tenay.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely stepped up first show as the main guy on one of the two top shows, and he really did deliver. Loser, I mean, look, that fucking Conan Hoovy segment, or not the Conan, Disco and Hoovy really looked fucking horrendous for me.
Yeah, that whole segment, again, apart from Conan, who I think came off quite well.
Yeah, no, I'll distance Conan from them, but I think those two really didn't look great. Yeah,
it was poor. But you know what? In Hoovy's case, I feel bad because of what a natural talent he is. In Disco's case, I shed no tears. Especially knowing where that guy, it's not like that guy is going to fucking blow them away for the remainder of this company. This is kind of where he's going to be.
Exactly.
Right, Lee. It's the go home show, which means our next free podcast in 2 weeks is going to be the pay-per-view. If this is your first pay-per-view cycle with us here in Days of Thunder, we like to play a game where that we've never really named it, where I put the card for the pay-per-view in front of me, and based on, now generally it's just based on the podcast we've been doing, but as Lee mentioned earlier in the show, this is a pay-per-view he has a little bit of fondness for. You are to tell me what the card is going to be.
Okay.
And all the only details I will give you, unless you start to struggle, are the number of matches available to you.
Okay.
And that is 9.
Okay, 9 matches. Okay, we have a main event, Fatal 4-Way match. Ric Flair, Hogan, DDP, Sting, Macho Man as special referee.
Yeah. I mean, if I really wanted to be a dick, I'd say, well, it's a 4 corners match. Kevin
Nash, Goldberg.
That's 2.
Scott Steiner, Booker T, US title finals.
That is 3.
Billy Kidman versus Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title.
That is 4.
Juventud versus Blitzkrieg in the number 1 contenders match for the Cruiserweight title.
That is 5.
Raven and Saturn versus the Horseman.
That is 6.
What else was announced on this show? Let me think who's on the show. Conan versus Disco Inferno.
Boom, boom. And you're at 7.
Hardcore Hack versus Bam Bam Bigelow.
That is 8.
And match number 9.
This is a tough one.
Match number 9. Let me think. I'm trying to rack my brain now.
I will give you... It's not really a hint, but I'll give you a stat about this match. Well, I can give you... I'll tell you what. I'll give you a stat. Would you like me to give you the type of match it is?
Go for it.
So it is the shortest match on the show.
Okay.
And it is a singles match. So you only have to think of 2 people.
Shortest match on the show.
I will give you a further hint. And I will say to you, this is not a match that was promoted or built in any way.
Okay.
This is the classic WCW stab in the dark, who was lying around a catering that brought their gear with them this day match by the looks of it.
Is Mikey Ripwreck one of the participants?
He is indeed one of the participants.
Okay, I'm now trying to think of who he was in the ring with. I knew he was on the show, and that's why I was trying to think, was it some kind of multi-man or... Right, Mikey in a singles match. No. Is it another cruiserweight?
No, I wouldn't describe him as such.
Okay. Mikey. Who does Mikey face? Oh, I can see the whole fucking card in front of me. I don't want to pass, but
I have one further hint that will. I think it's going to click and you'll get it.
Scotty Riggs.
Like it is Scotty Riggs.
Yes.
Yes. My remaining hint was going to be was a former member of the
no,
flock,
as I was sat thinking, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Riggs, yeah.
So yeah, that's our card for Spring Stampede 99 coming from the Tacoma Dome. And as kind of people have pointed out to us at WCW Thunderpod on Twitter or in the Discord, or we ourselves have pointed out on the show, for many people, this is considered the last great WCW pay-per-view. There are shows that have good matches going forward, for sure, but in terms of like start to finish, you end with a satisfied feeling that was a good show. This is most people's last one of those. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an optimistic party atmosphere on the next show, because we get to do that. We get to actually largely enjoy a show for the last time. Oh, fuck, that's horrifying, isn't it?
It's a horrifying thought.
But thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. We'll be back in 2 weeks on the free feed for Spring Stampede. We'll be back in 1 week for Black and Golden Days on patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod. So don't miss out. Subscribe today. Thanks very much, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder was produced by Lee Malone and edited by me, Dave Ryan. Keep up to date with the show and find all the ways to listen to us. You can follow us on Twitter at WCW Thunderpod or click the Linktree link in our Twitter bio or in the show notes. I am at The Day to Dave on Twitter and Lee is at Malone_713. Days of Thunder is a part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Follow the VOW network anywhere good podcasts are sold for more fine podcasts than you can shake a stick at. Thanks.
I can hear the thunder.